DNR Learn is proud to be a partner with HVAC Excellence. HVAC Excellence is an organization dedicated to the education and training of professionals in heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration, managed under the leadership of the ESCO Institute. DNR Learn produces on-demand learning courses, as well as virtual tours that help both entry-level and experienced professionals continue to learn and understand the technology and strategies involved with the installation and operations of the HVAC industry. With on-demand courses, enrollees will progress their way through episodic content and presentations, followed by assessments and review. Virtual interactive tours include 360-degree images, along with documentary-style interviews and content, to provide a deep look at residential, commercial, and other unique installation sites for water heating, air conditioning, and other energy-efficient technology. To learn more about the DNR Learn team and DNR International, visit the DNR International Solutions page.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. So today we're going to spend some time with Helen Townsend. How are you, Helen?
Hi, Clifton. Very well, thanks.
So Helen is with DNR International. If you remember, we've done a couple episodes with David D. Miranda. David's actually hanging out with us in the background. He's going to be doing some managing of slides and have additional content information. He'll probably throw some things in the chat if anybody has any questions. So we're very excited that you're hanging out with us today. Love to know where you're chiming in from. Tom, thanks for hanging out with us today. Hey, what's going on, Josh? Glad that you're here today. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting topic that is definitely moving into the HVAC industry. So we want to help make this transition for educators so they understand the roles that we have in training, because there's a lot of things going on in our industry. So we have to make sure that we are prepared for what is to come. So what is to come? Well, Helen, we get a lot of calls and questions and comments about heat pump water heaters. And I actually, I kind of poked the bear with an article earlier this week, actually. So I sent out an article. It's actually going to be published on the news this Saturday. And it actually brings up the question of, is a heat pump water heater a heat pump? And I want people to be thinking about this going forward. Kendrick, thanks for joining us. Hey, it's glad to see you again. So when we look at heat pump water heaters, the role in the HVAC and the plumbing industry, it's kind of a hybrid of two different trades, would you say?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, certainly the plumbing trades, often electric as well.
Yeah. So it's kind of a merger of HVAC because it has the refrigeration component. It's a plumbing, it's an electrical. So we have a variety of things going on. And we're going to see heat pump water heaters in the residential and the commercial as well as industrial sectors. And the reason that I like to poke the bear about heat pumps is if we think about like a heat pump water heater, we've spent too much time talking about split system residential like commercial heat pumps that have a reversing refrigerant cycle, and we call those heat pumps. And so that term of heat pump actually applies to all refrigeration systems that move heat, right? So a heat pump water heater is using the refrigeration cycle to move or pump heat and put it into another media, typically water. George, thanks for joining us today. Glad to have you with us. So how we do that and the types of equipment that goes into that could look a little bit different than what we have seen in the past with typical HVAC or refrigeration or plumbing. It's like this hybrid, but they're very crucial for our training departments. We actually have Zenobio Aguilera out at CET in California. He's converting a lot of his HVAC programs over to heat pump water heater training programs because there's such a demand for those. And so that's really what we're here to do today. We're here to introduce you into heat pump water heaters high level. And then we're going to give you some solutions for training that you can implement into your classroom. If you're a contractor, you can implement them into your own training programs to help prepare your own employees for some of these transitions that we're going to see, because it's a very high demand opportunity. Energy efficiency is a very, very big deal right now. So, Helen, can you tell us a little bit about DNR International and what spurred this training opportunity?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting us to speak
Mhm.
today. We're really glad to be here. We big fans of ESCO Institute, so it's great to be here. So I'm Helen Townsend. I'm a senior project manager at DNR International, and I manage electrification projects
Mhm.
focused primarily on commercial water heating, typically in the multifamily space. So,
Sure.
but at DNR on a whole, we specialize in energy efficiency, HVAC, and electrification content. So, I know you'll have seen with David DeMiranda, we do provide a lot of modern solutions for workforce development content, for workforce education and training. So we're constantly thinking, how can we look at the technology? How can we capture assets, and how can we put these into training materials, virtual tours, case studies? How do we expand our market research to cover the gaps that are identified, so that we have adequate training? So that's really what we're focused on. Electrification, in particular, right for me at least, water heating.
Hmm. No, absolutely. And it's an emerging technology globally. And so we're grateful to have a global community that joins us for training. We're thankful to have you here, Nasim. We appreciate you joining us from India. We've got Garrett down here in Bloomington, Indiana, not too far from me. I know Garrett's been hopping in here, seeing what's going on, going to the conference, going, okay, we really need to start introducing some new technologies and innovations into the industry. But as educators, a lot of times it's difficult for us to learn the new technology and then put the training together. And so, what DNR is doing is you're doing all of this field research, data analysis, and then you're building curriculum that is interactive from a variety of different elements, which is why I enjoy it. It's not just like you hop on and you're just doing this. Like you hop on and you're selecting all of these different components. Mr. Tebby, glad that you're joining us today. I think you'll really enjoy this one, Mr. Tebby, because this is really an opportunity for training programs that are starting to think outside of the box, going, okay, I need to grow, and where are the opportunities? And this is a big one, I personally think. All right, so you want to run with this, and I'm going to hang out here and I'm going to learn myself.
Okay.
This is a lot of intriguing stuff.
Sounds great. So that's just a little bit what I've already just said. But for today's podcast, there are three real areas that I want to cover.
Okay.
I want to talk about something called the Advanced Water Heating Initiative.
Yes.
That we shorten that to AWHI. I'm not sure how many of your viewers will be familiar with that. So we'll talk about that and the importance of that as a national initiative.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the qualified products list. So these are industry tested uh, products that will deliver a certain performance.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will also be talking about some demonstration projects and how we know that these can improve the efficiency of heat pump water heater technology, and how they can be used for workforce training or even just general awareness, because not everybody can go on site, but these demonstration
Right.
projects and these virtual tours allow people to poke around as if they were there in the mechanical room or on the roof or outside the back of the building.
Yeah, it's not like a virtual reality or an augmented reality. I mean, this is like reality. This is 3D video of the area. I
It
absolutely
really
love it.
is, and sometimes it's important to capture what's not working right,
Hmm.
what's not going to plan, so that we can learn the lessons from that.
You bet.
So, the Advanced Water Heating Initiative was founded in 2019 as a national initiative to accelerate market transformation for heat pump water heaters and to decarbonize water heating. So, I think that this is one of the best places to learn about heat pump water heaters, both residential and commercial.
Okay, I'm going to throw links into the chat too. So for those that want to see a little bit more about what we're talking about here, I'm going to put another link in so you can see the landing page for this initiative.
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Clifton.
Hmm.
So we've brought in a few pages here from the AWHI website. Um, as I said, it was launched in 2019. You can see from the pie chart on the right there the different organizations that are members of AWHI. We have a lot of manufacturers there, a
Hmm.
lot of utility participants, and again from nationally. This started more in the northwest of the United States. Bonneville Power Administration was a spearheading a lot of this work, but we also have a lot of industry associations, people from the government,
Hmm.
regulators, um, and even consulting firms like ours and educational training firms like ours. So what we know is that water heating is the second largest use of energy in residential homes and the largest in multifamily buildings over 5 units.
Mm.
So this presents a significant opportunity to decrease
Yeah.
greenhouse gas emissions along with other benefits. So AWHI is aiming to scale heat pump water heaters by shaping policies, building demand, bringing products to market, and educating the supply chain. It is a member funded collaborative of those people that I just talked about on the
Hmm.
right, and it's open to the public.
Mm. Very cool.
Let's go on to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so I think you're one too many there. There we go. So there are a lot of resources that you can find there too. I've just pulled up a few of them here, but there are white papers, there are fact sheets, there are reports, there are guides, there are some schematics. There's all kinds of really helpful information if you want to dive deeper here. You can see here there's a 2024 State of the Heat Pump Water Heater Market Report. There's a Midwest 120 volt heat pump water heater field study report.
Oh, wow.
There's the AWHI 5-year report. So I would really encourage your audience, if they have time, to go and check it out. Also, once a year, there's Heat Pump Water Heater Day.
Mm.
And this is typically in October. It's a virtual Heat Pump Water Heater Day, free to all. And there are
Mm.
speakers and really great information on the latest trends and technologies in the field.
Yeah, I'll have to join that, because I love seeing data and
Mhm.
research to be able to, to show and to validate the statements that we make. Because we get a lot of comments, especially on social media, of oh, this is never going to work. They don't work. They're not efficient. And when you've actually got data to reinforce that, you can go to someone and go, I understand the challenges that we may have faced 20 years ago that may have set a stigma, but we've overcome that, and we're actually producing very high efficient systems today. And here's the research behind it. You're welcome to dive as deep as you'd like to. So no, that's a great resource.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely right. And on the next slide, we can see there are all kinds of meetings. So first of all, there are different working groups. There's a working group on connectivity. There's a working group on residential heat pump water heaters. There's a home builders action council. There's a utility working group, and the one I'm involved in is the commercial working group.
Okay.
And that next meeting, you can see there, is going to be on April 17th from 12 to 1:30 Pacific. I think these are all Pacific times. But there's a link that you can sign up there to get information, to be notified of meetings that are coming up. They're very interesting meetings. There's always researchers talking about the latest information in the market. There are case studies that people will share with the group. Manufacturers, there'll be a spotlight on different manufacturers talking about their products. We'll sometimes have utility people. The national labs are frequently presenters.
Yeah, see
So
that.
it's a really rich source of information.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to, as we're moving along, I'm going to go grab that link and I'll try to throw that into the chat as well. Because, yeah, this is a really good site. I can't believe I've never spent any time on this one before. Yeah.
Okay, so that is pretty much AWHI. That's kind of our umbrella organization for moving us all forward in the same direction.
Okay.
So let's go on to the qualified products next. So because a lot of this started in the Northwest,
Mm-hmm.
the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, some of you will know that as NEA,
Mm-hmm.
they host the qualified product list,
Mm-hmm.
which covers both commercial and residential
I
products.
I just talked to Christopher Diamond yesterday for probably an hour. So yeah,
Okay,
fantastic group that helps validate the performance of different, systems that are coming to market.
100%. So
Hmm.
you wonder, how do we get to the qualification? Well, we started with an advanced water heating specification, also NEA. And that's really designed to ensure that all the critical data, the guidance, the warranties, the alarms, all the documentation that you need is written out. Um, to become a qualified product, you have a product has to meet all of the requirements of the advanced water heating specification.
Sure.
And then the manufacturers will have to fill in a product assessment data sheet to show that they are meeting all of the requirements of the advanced water heating specification. Now, I'm not an engineer, full disclosure, so I'm not going to talk about all the ins and outs. Some people more knowledgeable than me can speak to that,
Sure.
but you do then get to the qualified product list. So for the residential, it's either serving single family or low rise multifamily. And then the commercial qualified products list includes integrated and split systems that serve more than 4 dwelling units or commercial loads. So if we go on to the next slide, we can actually see a little section of the
There we
qualified
go.
product list. I just want to show you the columns that are on there and what we're looking at. So the company is obviously either the manufacturer or the supplier.
Sure.
And then there's a unique identifier for each product. And then how is it configured? Is it going to be multi-pass return to primary? Is it going to be single pass return to primary? Is it going to be swing tank? So what kind of configuration? Then your delivery method is going to be either custom engineered, which we're moving away from as much as we can,
Right.
or fully specified built up system, all the parts and pieces come together,
Like a
or
package.
is it going, well, not quite a package. It's like a list of all the stuff in
Ah,
an
okay.
inventory, and they all come, they're separate pieces, but they come together.
Gotcha.
And we have a diagram to show you in a moment. But the
Hmm.
third and the option that we really think is the potential for scaling this technology is that it would be fully packaged and skid mounted.
Okay. Ready to go.
Yeah,
Send me the
exactly.
box.
Plug and play.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got your climate zones back there, David. And then the tier, depending on the system, the whole water heating system, coefficient of performance. So ideally, a system COP of 3 or greater is the best. What
Absolutely.
we're looking for.
We talk about that coefficient of performance a lot when we're in especially the heat pump realm, where we're talking about, what type of energy am I using? And so for those that are joining us that are not familiar with coefficient of performance, really what we're talking about is how much heat, how many watts of heat can I move per every watt of electricity that I've purchased? So it gives us an understanding of energy efficiency. So when we start getting into that, 3 and above, that means for every watt of electricity I'm spending to run the piece of equipment, I'm producing 3 watts of heat, or around 3.412 BTUs per watt, right? So we're talking now about energy electrical efficiency. So if we're talking about a traditional straight electric water heater, we're talking about 1 or less.
Mhm.
So as we start approaching these higher numbers, these 2 and 3 coefficient of performance, we're gaining very significant savings on electricity.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. This is an interesting. I borrowed this from Ecotope, one of our engineering firms that we work really closely with, and they're a leading member of the Advanced Water Heating Initiative too.
Mm-hmm.
But this is so on the left you have sort of the old way. It's custom engineered for every site. Everything comes from a different distributor or multiple distributors at least, and or manufacturers, and then you put it together on site. Um, they might Pieces might come at different times. It's so then you move to a specified built-up system where you're getting all the parts and pieces from either a distributor or a manufacturer, and they're designed to work together. So
Absolutely.
that is a good system that's a good approach for many systems. Sometimes you don't have the space to bring in our third option, which is a packaged or skidded, everything in a box, essentially. But that is really the market is moving in order to scale this and to reduce the risk and to compress the cost and to reduce the timelines.
Mm-hmm.
We're really wanting to move to these two on the right, either specified built-up system or a fully packaged skidded system.
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause you're going to have a lot of engineering in that custom engineered side, which could multiply in cost, especially in our commercial applications.
Right, and then who do you go to when something breaks?
Yeah.
Where do you go? So I think when you have everything coming from one distributor or one manufacturer, you know exactly who to go to.
Right.
It's much less risky, and then you have like a single point of warranty as well. So we're really focused. A lot of the work that we're doing right now is focused on the packaged and skidded type of delivery method. So yeah, this slide is an interesting one because it does show you essentially what a skidded system looks like, all the parts and pieces. And I think we'll include this. Maybe we can include this in the chat, but this has all the parts and pieces you need. They're put together at the factory. They're sized according to the requirements of the building, typically using something called the Eco-Sizer, which we will have a link to in the end here as well. So it just takes so much of the risk and uncertainty and the potential for errors out.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Absolutely. So it's a tool to help design and select a system that we can easily install.
Right, and these could be you can have multiples of them. You can have you can have the storage tanks on one skid, and you can have the rest of the components on another skid. These are sort of modular, so depending on the size of, if you have a very large multifamily building, you could have 2 or 3 or 4 of these. So it can be craned up onto a rooftop. It can be installed behind a building. So there's a lot of different ways that this can simplify the
selection side.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, I think we're ready to move on to the demonstration.
Okay. Yeah. Now we get into the fun stuff. So we've dove into, we're making these changes. We're starting to build a lot of heat pump, hybrid heat pump water systems, call them heat pump water heaters. And we're doing these on small scales, all the way from residential, all the way into commercial applications. So all of our residential, we're going to be spending some time over the next couple months diving into the evolution in the residential side. So we already had split system heat pump water heaters that are now being produced by even companies like A.O. Smith. They had a CO2 split system for residential applications at AHR this year. And I was just talking to them today. So in the future, we'll dive into some more of these residential applications. But we got to have an understanding of how these things work, right? What do they even look like when they go into a room? And then, how do we start understanding each component individually? So I love the way you demonstrate the training modules for these products.
Yeah. Thanks, Clifton. So we want to look at a couple of different virtual tours, essentially, for commercial heat pump water heating. And we do have many others on residential as well, but we're focused right now on commercial. But the first one will be this factory tour of the water drop. So Small Planet Supply is a distributor and manufacturer in Tumwater, Washington, up in the Northwest USA. And they've put together a fully packaged skidded product called the water drop. And I know that we have a video of the CEO, Albert Rooks. So let's take a listen to that.
Sure, absolutely.
We're standing here in front of a fully packaged water drop system here in the Eklund Innovation Center in Tumwater, Washington. It's a full domestic hot water system using heat pumps, primary storage, the swing tank or the isolation tank. Expansion tanks are the red tanks that we see. And on the back side of this system
is a collection of heat pumps. All those heat pumps take cold city water, lift it 100 degrees to roughly 150 degree, pump that water into the 3 primary storage tanks until they're full. Once they're full and the building's ready to start its day, water is drawn off of the system. It comes out of the primary storage tanks into the isolation or the swing tank where it's stored, typically at 150 degree temperature also. And then as it comes out of the swing tank, goes into the building, it's driven by the onboard recirculation pump. It's an ECM driven pump, so we can control it and really tune the speed and the delta T of the recirculation loop. The temperature maintenance is an electronic mixing valve up here. We typically use electronic mixing valves because you can manage the output temperature much more precisely than you can with a thermostatic mixing valve. On the end of the skid, there are 3 water pipes here, and the 3 water pipes are taking in cold water from the city and then producing the mixed temperature to the building right here, and then the smaller pipe is the recirculation return. So we always have that water flowing. The reason that we have that swing tank or that temperature maintenance tank is that recirculation always has a little bit of loss overnight to a building that isn't pulling and using domestic hot water. We're just giving that 150 degree water through a mixing valve, and then it comes back a little bit colder. We want to keep that mixed, that different temperature, that colder water away from the primary storage, so we loop it back into the recirculation tank or the swing tank. The swing tank's got a little bit of electric resistance in it, so that in an overnight situation when the tank kind of cools a little bit and it's not hooked up to the heat pumps, it's really kind of an isolation tank, the electric resistance will flash on, do a quick little lift back up to our mixing temperature, and then off it goes. The first 50 gallons or maybe 100 gallons of use for the building in the morning will pull more 150 degree water out of the primary storage tanks and replenish this tank's 150 degree supply, and the building's started and is running for another daily cycle.
It's very intriguing. And so all throughout your training series, I can't even call them training videos. So it's a training module that's integrating some of these individual videos along with installation content and 3-dimensional views of the areas that they're being installed in. So we're going to start doing more demonstrations of these as we go along. And I want you all to know that these modules are actually now available on the HVACR Learning Network. So when you get a chance, hop onto the Learning Network. I'll put some links in here in a minute so that you can run over there and take a look after the show. So we've been partnering with DNR on a variety of learning modules. And so this heat pump, the commercial heat pump water heater, we have a couple of them already in the inventory. So that's why we're doing this demonstration, kind of getting you comfortable with what this curriculum looks like. All right, let me go back over to our presentation feed.
Yeah, thanks, Clifton. So, I mean, there are more areas to explore here. We haven't loaded up any videos, but we wanted to just show you what a skidded systems looks like. But I would like to, yeah, you can go in there and poke around. This is the factory. This is the All Planet Supply factory in Tumwater. So that's where they're actually manufacturing the skid. And as with all of our learnings, there are pop-up panels with information, and they're embedded videos, and you can really go and explore all of the elements. So here's the 2 side-by-side skids, the one with storage tanks on the left, and then the one with the heat pump and the swing tank and the rest of the components on the right. And these will be fully boxed. So they will look like a box, like a storage shed a little bit in blue.
Well, if I'm an instructor and I'm looking at implementing this into a classroom, this is a one-stop shop. This is not only the piece of equipment, but this is all the training curriculum with the interactive elements that go along with it. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued with that one.
Yeah, there you see them on the truck being sent out to a site.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what we're going through here is actually part of this curriculum. It's not like we just prepared this for today. This is actually, David is in the back running through the program, the curriculum, as we're talking about them.
So there you can see that these are Sanko 2 units on the outside,
Mhm.
a whole array of them on the outside of the skid.
Yeah, and we're going to hear a lot more about those going forward. So the Senko CO2s and the A.O. Smith CO2s are becoming a very, very popular product in the market.
That's right.
And if anyone has any questions along the way, please let us know in the chat. We'd be happy to dive deeper into some of these, pieces of it.
Yeah, so we really feel like the skidded system is the way forward for wherever it works, wherever there's enough room to fit them in, wherever the conditions of the building will allow. Skidded just does reduce that. It just is plug and play.
Sure.
It's more straightforward, and it's a less risky approach. But if we move on to the next slide as well, there are lots of different applications and lots of different delivery methods. So I know that David DiMiranda had showcased this tour when he spoke with you a few weeks back, Clifton. But I'd like to look at some of those, look a little bit more in depth at some of the features here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do, because this is fascinating to me, this whole section.
Yeah. So David, would you just back out to the home page one more time? So if for somebody who doesn't know anything about commercial heat pump water heaters, this would be also a really good place to learn some more. So we have the different applications. We have all the components of the heat pump water heater system. Because remember, we're thinking of it's not just a heat pump,
Right.
or heat pump water heater. It's a whole system. Yeah, there we go with all the temperature maintenance system, the heat pump, the storage, and the controls. And each of these will have a pop-up. You could probably click on one of them and you'll see a pop-up information.
So if we're wanting to learn about all of the individual components, we actually have separate little mini training and application scenarios for all of the individual components that goes into a complete system.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, playing
sometimes
through.
Live so well. But we wanted to show you an example of maybe if we go back out to the applications there. So if we go into applications, we're looking at, what type of building is it? Is it a mid-rise? Is it a high-rise? Is it a low-rise? But if we go into the mid-rise, I wanted to look at just the Jackson one. So Jackson is an example of a custom-built site. Here we go. So this is the actual virtual interactive tour. It's a multifamily building in Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
And it was designed by Ecotope. I've talked about them before, a great engineering company and research company. So this was a custom system, a Colmax system. And it's just interesting, I think, in these tours to go into the system, David. So if you can get us into the mechanical room.
Yeah, this is what I love.
Right. You're in the system. So
actual 3D.
Right. You can poke around and you can look at all of the info panels. You can watch the videos. You can explore the site. And so we aim to do this with all of our virtual tours.
So like in that scenario where you have the yellow and the red, so you're going to have the yellow for information on that products and applications. So like we're talking about a mixing valve.
Exactly.
How does the mixing valve actually function? And then for the video, you're actually going to have many videos like the one that we looked at a while ago with the storage tanks and the intermediate mixing tank.
That's right.
For each one of these, we're going to dive deeper and have an explanation or explanatory video.
Yeah, so I don't know if we'll be able to hear him, but this is one of the engineers there speaking about, just giving a lot more information on the system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll have multiple videos embedded.
Okay, yeah, very cool.
And what's nice about these, when you have the video right there, you can hear the equipment acoustically. How loud is it? How are the fans? You get more information. Because not that many people can actually go on site, but it is pretty cool to be feeling like you're almost as if you're there.
Yeah, that's one aspect that we can't do very easily because we're playing video within a video player. But when you're actually going through this course, you're actually exactly like Helen said, you're going to feel like you're in the atmosphere. You're going to hear all of the audio aspects as well as the video aspects of it.
So let's back out of there if we can, David. And then something like Bayview, and I know that David talked about this before, but you see that that's an example of a skid. This was a Steffa skid with a Mitsubishi HVAC. Oh my goodness, QAHV,
Oh, okay.
Mitsubishi QAHV, or a Heat 2.0. So I love this one because you can actually feel like you're walking up the stairs into the skid. You can open the door and you can get yourself into the room. And then you can scroll around and you can watch videos with somebody
Oh, wow.
engineers talking about the controls, or the piping configuration, the meters and the valves. So you can gain a lot of information. I think typically we say a virtual tour takes about 45 minutes to go through start to finish.
Okay.
You're looking at all the videos.
And that's for each module, for each area.
Right.
Very, very nice. So a lot of information that can be drawn from that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's back out of there as well. And in addition to the system tour, there's also usually a site tour, so you can see a little bit more about the building and where it's located and where the equipment is within that building. So whether it's in an underground garage or
Okay, so now we're actually going back to the other components of that system. So we went from the outdoor, the heat pump side of things with the controls and storage, now back indoors.
Well, I have to admit, I'm not totally sure which one we're in there, but
Okay. Very neat, though.
I think this might be. Oh, was there? Okay. All right. So yeah. So you can see up there the Space Needle. I think that's kind of interesting. We're
That is pretty neat.
in Seattle.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a true immersive 3D experience versus some of the others that we've encountered, is that you can actually, just like we're looking at this right now on a 2D screen, you can feel the atmosphere, a 3D atmosphere on a 2D presentation.
Yeah, you actually get a sunny day in Seattle, which is nice.
Sure. So Paul has a very good question. So if we're looking at this as a training curriculum, are there manuals, are there written content that goes along with these videos?
No, is the answer, the short answer to that. I mean, we have started putting closed captions on the videos. So I don't know that these have them. Our newer ones do.
Okay.
But there are also some high-level case studies. They're usually just 2-pagers, but that is a written format.
That goes along with that particular project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, David, for pulling those up. So for most of our projects, we also capture a case study because it's a different audience typically. I mean, this could be for more decision makers. It's the high level, what were the results? Why was this done? What was the goal of the project? What was the system configuration?
Very cool. Yeah, no, I think this is exactly what Paul was talking about, is, some background material that we can use, for training and preparing for this. This is a great homework assignment. Here, go read this, and then tomorrow we're going to dive into the actual curriculum.
Right, yeah. Then, there's also some information on, there are lots of tools that are associated with these central heat, designing these systems. If we can go back out to the tools section. So how do you size them?
Right.
How much storage do you need? How many gallons of water are there? How big does the system need to be? You don't want to be too big. So how do you size it? So Ecotope has created an eco-sizing tool, which is a web-based tool where you plug in number of units or number of residents, incoming water temperature, variables like that, and then it calculates it for you. So that is an engineering tool that is very useful and is publicly available.
Yeah, well, that's something that we like to talk about here on the show. Is that there's this unfortunate stigma within society that HVAC is, dirty old furnaces and old air conditioners, not realizing all the different avenues and job opportunities within our industry. So we may have a student that enters into this class, decides that maybe they're not on the mechanical, maybe they're not the service technician, but they're very intrigued by this once they see the design and application and go, oh,
Hmm.
wow, this ties in my whole, I was looking at IT and engineering and CAD design, but then now this makes a little bit more sense to me. I may be interested in like a design aspect of the industry versus on the installation or service. So you're showing multiple aspects of the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, throughout the supply chain, there's so many different areas to plug in, I think, depending on your interest. Um, and this is such a growing industry. There's going to be more and more and more of these. There's a lot of replacements that need to happen, a lot of old gas systems that are not efficient enough or that
Mhm.
are just at the end of their life cycle and will be replaced. So yeah, so that's the EcoSizer, and then there are also we talked a little bit about the qualification process earlier, but there's also an Eco simulator for how do you simulate the energy performance.
Oh, right.
So there are lots of engineering tools to help create and design the system that's going to work for the building and going to deliver the performance and the energy efficiency that it needs.
Okay, so you can simulate the system once you've designed it. So as you're changing out different components, you can do a simulation of performance.
Right, and typically
Wow.
on these demonstration projects, you really want to monitor them for 12 months through different seasonal changes. You want to make sure that that anticipated or that estimated or that modeled performance is indeed what's being delivered. And so, if it's not being delivered, where do you troubleshoot? What's going wrong? So, most of these will have a measurement and verification um, a component to them. So there will be
Okay.
flow meters and sensors, and there will be a data stream that somebody's monitoring to make sure, because there is electric resistance backup in the swing tanks, for example. So,
Okay.
it, but you want to know that the heat pump is performing correctly, and it's not relying on too much on the electric resistance or too much on a if the building decides to leave in the old system, the existing system as backup. So that measurement verification, or M&V as they call it, is really vital to make sure that the performance is it's meeting the anticipated
What
performance.
is rated for? Sure. Indeed.
Right, because the next stage really is to get these into utility programs that they can incentivize these products.
Right. Well, you look at utility co-ops, they're wanting to go with high efficiency equipment. They're going to have incentives for, qualified products, but then how do you know that they're actually installed properly and that they're operating properly?
Right, right,
Sure.
exactly.
Which is a whole nother sector of our industry. When we start looking at programs and the type of technicians that we are introducing into the field, one that I think is going to be a new role within our industry is the commissioning technician.
Mm.
The actual conversation I had yesterday with Christopher Diamond was on a connected commissioning project for residential installations. And so when we start looking at these high performance systems, you've got an installer, but
Mhm.
then before you have repairs from the service technician, you have to make sure that system is installed properly and operating, which comes to that commissioning agent. And so tools like that is really a whole new realm in our industry that is becoming very, very specialized and just a unique
Yeah,
position on its own.
absolutely. I think the commissioning is so important. It's important
Mm.
that the commissioning agent is involved early enough so that you're making sure that there's all the tests that have to be run and all the results that you're needing, that there's no sort of odd things in the design. There's no wall blocking of event. There's you want that commissioning agent in there early enough to be yeah, so that the commissioning is done correctly.
You betcha. And understanding how to use the tools as well.
Yeah, so I think the only final thing here would be to look at the delivery method there, David.
Hmm.
So we talked again about the old way, which is the custom built, which we're moving
Mhm.
away from. I mean, there's still some cases where that will make sense, but the fully packaged or skid mounted is really what we're wanting to move to. So here are those two examples: that water drop where we saw the video with Albert Rooks from Small Planet Supply. There you see it neatly packaged up in the blue box, and then that Stephus Origin that we saw on the Bayview virtual tour.
Yeah, no, very, very, very cool. Haven't seen anybody pop in the chat. Anybody have any questions yet? I need to put that link out there too. So if anyone's interested in following up on this and you're already a member of the HVACR Learning Network, I encourage you to hop in there. There is a free trial so that you can do a preview of one of these courses, one of the heat pump water heater courses and how things operate. If you're not on the HVACR Learning Network, I encourage you to. It's free to hop on. So every student that comes into the classroom should be getting their free account, and every technician at a contractor should. I encourage, I shouldn't say you should, but I encourage you to hop on, get your account started, and you'll find all sorts of free training as well as these paid educational opportunities that are mixed in as well. All right. Any other sections that we feel like we need to introduce to people while we're here? It's quite the gamut of training.
Yeah, I mean, we can poke around some more. I think we've maybe looking at the system would be the most interesting.
Sure.
So let's look at the heat pump. Let's start with the basics.
Yes, do like a walkthrough once we get here. What are we going to see?
Let's hope it'll load. If it doesn't load, you certainly can go in on your own time and take a look. And typically there's an information panel and a picture, and oftentimes a video as well, kind of talking through the details of each of these components. So I'm not sure it's going to load right now.
Sure, absolutely. All right, well, let's talk about some ways that everyone can connect with DNR to learn more about the variety of different trainings. Because it's not just this one. You have a variety of different resources and training solutions.
We do. We have, I think David talked about these a couple of weeks ago, but we have a lot of online on-demand modules. We have instructor-led trainings, typically given to utilities. And we have virtual tours and case studies. And we're always open if people have ideas of what else needs to be captured. We're looking a lot at some how do we bridge the gaps, especially for like maintenance and operations. Once these systems are installed, what has to happen, and when does it have to happen, and how do you know it has to happen? So yeah, thanks, David, for bringing up our courses there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Because once you start, looking at these are the design and the installation, and then once you get on the service side, that's a whole nother curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an important curriculum that I think has not probably had quite enough. I mean, these are pretty new systems. This is emerging technology. It's not a gas boiler. It's a totally different system. So, yeah.
And some of these are available on the HVACR Learning Network. Not the complete selection, but we do have some of them available currently. All right, very cool. David, I know you're back there. Is there anything you're wanting to add to the conversation before we start wrapping things up today? All right. Well, anyone with a final chance to have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. So this is one of those conversations that we keep having about emerging technologies, things that we need to be preparing for. This is not the future. This is the current. And so we're trying to help you get prepared for that. There's another good link for some resources. All right. Well, Helen, David, I sure appreciate both of you joining us today. If anyone has any other questions, you want to learn a little bit more, we encourage you to get a hold of DNR. If you have questions and comments for us, I'd feedback on things that you would like for us to dive deeper into going into this new year. we've just got past our primary conference season, so we're just now building out our calendar of topics. Next week, Jason and I are going to dive really deep into, I would almost call it a controversial topic. We're going to dive into how dew point is the indicator for the end of civilization. And so we're going to break out the psychrometric chart and start looking at global warming from a psychrometric perspective with dew point, and looking at dry bulb, wet bulb, and understanding the effect of dry bulb on existence. So it's going to be an interesting topic. Oh yeah, Tom, thank you so much. I know this is the type of content that not everyone is understanding. And Helen mentioned earlier that what we're doing is in the electrification. You can look at it a variety of different ways. It really comes down to efficiency. And it has many names, but it's all about system efficiency. And we are replacing our older chillers and boilers with high-performing heat pump hydronic systems. So now it is very much a combination of HVAC and plumbing and electrical, and it is our industry to serve. And so there's going to be a lot of these types of trainings going forward. So, you missed a really good one, Osvaldo. So, yes, is the answer on that. So in the pool area, when I keep saying that all industries are going through changes right now, it is very true. So the swimming pool environment is moving away from gas-fired and electric resistive heating systems, going to heat pump water heating solutions. So the exact same scenario. So if you're in these multifamily applications, don't be a bit surprised to see that group of heat pumps serving domestic water as well as heated water for swimming pool solutions. So yeah, absolutely it is. I've seen them very recently being introduced, especially those Senko CO2s. All right. Well, Helen, thank you so much for joining us. We're grateful you spent time with us today.
Thank you so much, Clifton. Really appreciate the invitation to come and speak. It's been fun.
That's awesome. We're glad to have you here. Well, everyone, we enjoy hanging out with you. We're grateful that you're spending time with us. And we will see you all again next week on Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. Bye, everybody.